I mentioned in the last movie that you would set a variable data type so that you can check to make sure that your code's running properly. Another way to make sure that your code is running properly is by using something called trace statements. A trace statement is something that pops up in the output window, kind of like a message to yourself. If you're working along in the working files, I'm in the trace statements file, and this is inside of the chapter 2 folder in the exercise files. I'm going to go to the first frame of the actions layer, and I'm going to open up the actions panel by pressing Option F9 on my keyboard. Again, that's just F9 on the PC. And this is the same file that we worked on in the last exercise when we did the username as a string equal to Sammy. If at any point I want to check the value of this username, after that semicolon, I'm going to press return a few times to go down a few lines. And you don't have to really go down that many lines. I can just go to the second line and write this code. Personally, I just like to space out my code a little bit so it's easier for me to read. So on line 4, I'm going to type trace. It's going to turn blue because that's a keyword in Flash. Then an open parenthesis. And inside of the parentheses, you write the value that you'd like to trace. So I'm going to write user and then name with a capital N, just like I wrote it above. It's very important to note the casing of my variable on line 1. If I gave it a capital U here and made it look like this, for example, this would give me a different value. So you want to make sure that your casing is all the same. This is totally case sensitive. Alright, so after username, I'm going to do a close parenthesis and a semicolon. Then I press Command Return, and that'll test the movie. And then I get this message in the output window that says Sammy. That might not seem like it's too important, but if you can imagine, if we have really complex code, thousands and thousands of lines of code, and there's one line that's not working properly, but Flash isn't giving you the problem in the output window, or it's giving you a problem that you don't understand, by using a trace statement, you can check to see if your code is working. I can also put inside of the trace statement, if I erase this username, let's say I just want to check to see if my code's working properly. So I'm going to put this trace statement inside of a block of code to make sure it's running properly. So I'd put in quotes, this code is running properly. Close quote, and Command Return or Control Enter to test the movie. This code is running properly. Great, I'm glad this code is running properly. It makes me happy. So that is how you use a trace statement. It might not make a ton of sense why you'd use it, but as we go on, you'll see when we write lots and lots of lines of code, trace statements will be very useful to us to check to see if it's running properly. In the next movie, I'll explain how to make comments in your code.